Okay, cool. I think we are good to go. We are back. Alrighty. What should we start with? Last night I did a bunch more agility. I've so far determined that this is the thing that needs the rework the most. Is I went through all the different skills, and so I've been mostly just here at Berthorpe. I did try the agility arena a little bit. Let's have a look at this, right? Agility. Also, visual bug if I click too quickly, apparently. This is the thing I think needs most work, is you go from level 1 and level 1 and level 1. Level 20 is the agility arena medium obstacles, but this isn't particularly viable without level, 40. Because you get stuck on so many of the high obstacles, which a lot of them are in the middle section, so when you're traversing and whatnot. So it just doesn't really feel that good. But the thing that's more standout to me is that there isn't really a level 10 training thing either, or a level 20 training thing, if you don't include the medium thing, which I don't think should count. It's kind of weird. But then, like, you look at basically every other skill. Like, I think there's a level 10 training method, right? But this one doesn't seem to have it. For no apparent reason. There needs to be a level 10 course, because you shouldn't be here for this long. And there are probably ways around it, like definitely with quest rewards and stuff, but that's not the intuitive approach. You know, a new player is not going to know which quests to do. They shouldn't be thinking about which quests to do just to train their agility. And they also shouldn't be stuck at the same course for the first 25 to 30 levels. Which, even at that point, if you go to 25, you're also locked behind a quest before you can do that one. Whereas a lot of other skills, especially like non-crafting skills, like mining, wood cutting, fishing, that same restriction isn't really there. So I feel like this is the early game for the agility needs something extra. And it definitely made me appreciate the agility rooftop courses in old school, because it made it so like you're actually making incremental stages, and as you go up, your experience rates are also slowly going up. Even if it's slightly, it's still something. Yeah, that's basically what I've been doing mostly, is just the agility. Like last night, I did a little bit of AFK thieving. We hit our goal for Guild of Our Own. I think I only needed 1 level, but I got 3. But with the aura, I can like AFK the merchants, which is really nice. Which is also why I got a bunch more cash again. What else did we do? I feel like that might have been it. Oh no, I went and claimed like a little bit more of that R down farm thing, and I did some herb patches, which we'll go and do that in a minute. We'll do it after this lap. I did a little bit of farming. That was really about it, I think. Yeah, I can't think of anything off the top of my head. But what I've decided to do today is, again, continue on questing. I've got Merlin's Crystal... Oh, second, sorry. I got Death Plateau first, because I think I saw that this is now voice acted. So, and it's been reworked since the original game. I guess I can say the original game, because it was... The old school version is the original game's quest. I don't know, semantics. If people get offended by that, bleh. But yeah, I'm going to do Death Plateau. Merlin's Crystal I'm just going to do because there's another situation where Jack is stuck at a step. He thinks he knows what to do, but he hasn't told me because I don't want to spoil anything. But he was stuck on that the other day. So going to do that. And then if he's still stuck, I can message him. Where is my herb seeds? Harriman. Unfortunately, yesterday I kept on... My guams kept on being... whatchamacallit? They kept on being diseased. I just kept on curing them, which meant they weren't growing. But we might have to get some more seeds today. Then after that, I want to continue on the necromancy kind of area with Rune Mythos and Hilly Row. Apparently, I can do both of those. They're not voice acted, but I'm kind of intrigued, and I feel like they're kind of, for the most part, I want to do the 5th age quests first. But oh, wait a minute. I put some. Wait a minute. Has it been a new day yet? It has, because that's the server time, right? Yeah. Daily reset. Cool. I put the pineapples in the compost thing, so I can do super compost, which should help with, because I'm not really doing tree runs or anything, so I don't need the pineapples for anything else, I don't think. Seaweed anyway. I'm going to put those pineapples in, because I left them in overnight. No, keep those. Dump all those. What was I saying? I've forgotten what I was saying. Yay! How many items would you like to place in? 9 million. Alright, I think that was less than 1 million. Whatever. Super compost, take all of it. Let's fucking go. This should, yeah, definitely help them being diseased less, which will be good. Oh yeah, I was saying that I want to do focus, like do the 5th age ones first where possible, and then do, how are these not died? And then do the 6th age ones afterward. Just for story reasons, I guess. If I am going to look at this stuff, then I might as well. But there will be some exceptions, like Rune Mythos and Killy Row, I think, are 6th age, but they're like the necromancer stuff. So I guess if it's like skill-based stuff or related to a specific skill like that, I kind of want to do it anyway. But I'm not sure. And I also didn't really have other alternatives that I thought would be a good one to do. Let's do this and then grab note produce. Instant fingers. Okay, well, cool. So you can just do that now. I saw that when I right-clicked on him the other day. I'll go to Artie last. Where's the other one? Felidor. Maybe I should do Priest in Peril? So I can go get the other farming patch too. That'd probably be a good idea, to be honest. Maybe I do that instead of the necromancy ones. I'm assuming that's still 5th age. Let's go up. I'm guessing this is player-owned ports. I've walked past this a few times, and I've heard about player-owned ports, but I know nothing about them. I just know that they were kind of either strongly, like they were kind of either disliked or very polarizing. But I don't remember what, like which one of those, and I don't know anything about the actual stuff or why it was disliked or polarizing. But we'll find out eventually. You know, after I buy a shit ton more bagged plants and level those things up in a really cheap way. Well, not cheap, but like dodgy cheap. Because that shit was not cheap. That. Cool. Note produce. And then I guess at the last bin, we'll fill these buckets back up. Let's actually grab out our other 2 buckets. Oh, wait, no. We have our other 2 buckets. All right, cool. Artie. Yeah, unfortunately, because the agility was so slow, we haven't got that yet. The 40 agility for Guild of our own. But we need the 42 Herblore anyway, so not rushing. I guess I'll probably hit at least 30 tonight. And then hopefully things pick up a bit after that. I'm scared to check this thing. I do have a... All right, I got 1 in here. Gather produce, please. All right, thank you. And then I had a couple in here, right? And they've probably got babies. Should have babies. Hello, Edward. Hello, Zoe. Alright, cool. Now we chuck these in there, I guess. Hi, Lola. You know what? Well, you can stay in there. Who cares? Because I don't know like timers or anything for this, I'm kind of a little off on these. Change, give me that. Can I use super compost over regular compost? Like upgrade it? Oh, you can. Interesting. Interesting. Right, since now we know how to get the super compost, I think maybe we empty all of... Oh my god, this is actually going to take it. Well, I don't think I'm going to use regular compost anymore. Empty Mad Mock Mate. There. Mod Mac K clicks. Oh my god. Forgive me, I just woke up. Well, woke up a little bit ago, but I just got out of bed. The dog was sleeping on top of me. I couldn't leave. So, you know, it's against the law to leave a sleeping dog and wake them up. Oh well, I'm just going to the wrong one. I could just buy new buckets, but this will look cleaner. Oops. I know this is exciting content though. This is what you all want to see. A man misclicking empty bucket. Holy fuck, what are my clicks right now? This is what happens when I play RuneScape 3 too much. Funny, because just before this I was doing like, before I started doing the RS3 stuff, I was doing Fasanis and Doom, which arguably take pretty decent clicks. And now I can barely click on an empty bucket. We love it. Alright. Cool. Now let's just take compost. Let's fill it up with super compost. And then we're Gucci. And I'm assuming if I'm mostly just doing herb patches, then the 40 pineapples should sustain us. So I don't know what it is, like whether it's like a 1-to-1 ratio or what. You know what I'm going to try? I just saw that this has noted. This would be ridiculous if I could, but you could put noted... Yeah, so you could put noted stuff in. You can't take noted stuff. Oh, I put it into noted buckets. Very disappointing. Game-breaking immersion. Calling Jagex HQ. Writing them a sternly worded letter. All the usual. Discord. Cool. I've also scheduled these so for YouTube. So I'm just going to be uploading the VODs. I'm not going to be doing any kind of fancy YouTube editing stuff. It's not really my domain. But I am scheduling these starting next Tuesday. Tuesday, 8 p.m. Australian time. I won't really be advertising it much because they're just VODs. But yeah, I figure I might as well upload them. Especially if it's no chat interaction, so it doesn't break things up as much. Like this is essentially... Oh, I got another little baby. This is essentially like a YouTube commentary, but for Twitch. And much more continuous. There's a lot more breaks, a lot less editing, or no editing because lazy. But Yeah, might as well. Alright. What next? We did that. We just dive straight into the Death Plateau. Oh, my cat also grew into an actual cat now as well, so I got that in the bank. I don't know if I needed that for Itchlerans or if I just needed a kitten even, but we've done that. But now I just need to be able to kill a certain level. Like level 50 something combat. Alright, rather than stand around, let's just go to Death Plateau. Actually, let's check the quest log because I don't even know if it's in the same spot. This quest is fully voice acted. I'm keen. Level 9 troll. Uh-oh, spaghettios. I didn't look at where I'm starting. It is Berthorpe still, right? It is indeed. God, imagine if Death Plateau wasn't at Death Plateau anymore. That would be something. If we don't end up doing the 2 Necromancer ones, maybe we'll look at something else. Oh God, I'm tired. Wait, which one's it telling me to talk to? Commander.
Hello, citizen.
Hello, Sid. Oh, he did talk. It was just played. Hopefully the audio balancing is better for this quest.
We do have a quest, if you believe that you are ready for it.
Doesn't sound like it.
The trolls have taken up a position on Death Plateau, and we can't move them. As you know, the trolls have been pushing us hard, and we have to do something before they get too dug in and begin sending forces down the pass. They have stone throwers lining the only path up there that we know about, and the only entrance is narrow and easy to hold. If I didn't know they were pretty much mindless animals, I would almost admire the position they've taken.
And you want me to go up there and kill them?
Well, no. Sending you alone would be suicidal. What we need is to find another way up there. If we can find another route, then we can try and ambush them or just spy on their movements. There's a cave beyond the defensive wall to the northwest, at the foot of the plateau, where you'll find a dwarf called Sabbath. He's a surly old geezer, but a good ally. He and his wife were surveying the mountain before the trolls arrived.
It's like I'm gonna put up the gain a little on the... What? No more? No. Alright, let's put that up a little bit.
To get there, go northwest from here, then west past the tower and the ruined wall. Then turn north, and you can't miss it.
Okay, that should be louder for the videos.
Go and speak to him. I'm sure that at the very least he'll be able to tell you another route up to the plateau. We really need you to help us, with some urgency. It will be dangerous, and you may have to face some combat. Can you do it?
Alright, accept the quest. I'm gonna adjust the audio a little bit more.
That's great news. May the gods grant you speed.
Alright. Let's turn down music, the sound effects, and the ambient sound. And then let's turn things up again on here. Okay, so we'll see how that goes. And I've turned it up for my headset as well. Hopefully the dialogue's better. Now, he said something about talking to dwarf. Was this actually just voice acted or did they redo the quest? 2012 they replaced it. Okay. View journal. We agreed to scout Death Plateau to try and find a new passage to the Imperial Guard. Yeah. I think I need to turn the music down slightly more. Let's try that. Actually, ambience though. I've been told to speak to Sabbath. Dwarf that lives in a cave at the foot of the plateau. It's my first point of contact. His cave is under Death Plateau. Oh, right here. Yeah, this is kind of weird. Wait, what?
I'm here to stop the trolls. I'll stand here all day watching for trolls. Trolls look a lot like rocks. I'll spend all day staring at rocks.
Relatable. Wait. I like that. He just tells us about his little, like, monotonous job. Okay, so those ones are still fairly high level. Alright. Hello, Sabbat. Hello there.
Hello? What are you after?
I want to ask you something. Yeah, why are you living in the cave?
Cave? This is no cave,
Oh, he's a
you
dwarf.
idiot.
Duh.
This is clearly the entrance hall to the trading post I'm going to set up with me wife once the trolls are gone.
My bad.
We're going to have some shelves over there and put the storeroom over there.
Oh, Ben messaged me. Alright, Ben, if you're listening, fuck you. My group mate just sent me a delicious meal. But no, congrats as well. Well, you have to admit it's a little unpolished.
Aye, well, blame the missus for that. The second the trolls came along, she packed all the tools up and moved into a fancy dan little cottage. But not me. I'm not shifting for some stupid trolls. It's them or me. And I'm winning so far. One day, they'll all be dead. Then I'll work this place into a proper little home and shop. Then who'll be laughing, eh?
Probably you in a high-pitched insane cackle.
I heard that.
No, it's something else.
Ambush the trolls, eh? That's an idea. First good one I've heard the guard have in a long while.
Alright, no need to be rude.
But it's not my problem, so I suggest you take your fancy talk elsewhere.
How is it not your problem? You just said you wanted them cleared out. Well, I'm not moving until you help me.
Well, try not to get in me way, because I'm not going to help you.
Fine.
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 You're really not going to move, are you?
No. Man is the patience
All right, I'll
of a
help.
toddler.
If nothing else, I don't want you standing there watching us while I sleep.
Why not? What are you doing? Huh? 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 So you know way up to Death Plateau?
Well, if you want up there, you've got two choices. The first one is you can try the airy-fairy, lackluster, shoddy way, clambering over the rocks like some cross-eyed goat. Faffing around like a fool, scrambling about hand over hand, foot over foot. Nobody's meant to get around like that, man. It's demeaning.
Well, what's the other way?
Ah, the proper way. Under the rocks.
Oh, that's different.
Harder way, man. The trolls might be thick, but they'll spot your carton rubble out by the ton. No, what you need is to break into one of the natural caves under here. That'll sort you out.
Oh, interesting. So we're not going over the mountain like in old school.
Then you can enjoy the wonderful sport of caving and potholing. Ah, the great feel of scrambling hand over foot through dark, dank passages. Bliss.
Well, where are these caverns? And can you be sure it'll come out where I need to go? Yeah, that's a good point.
Well, I didn't get much time to do anything but make some notes before the trolls came. I bet Frida had time to put them all together. She's a bit soft in the head from all the living on the surface, but still a canny lass when it comes to geology. You can't miss her place. It's a little house to the west of here. You just need to follow the only path in that
Wait,
direction,
they gave her a name?
and you'll get
Didn't it
there.
just used to be the Sherpa?
I don't know why she keeps to that place when we have a nice comfy cave right here we can turn into a proper home. It's you lot that I blame. All you gallivanting around on the surface has turned her head.
Right. I'll go and ask her about the survey then.
Aye, see you later then. Watch your heed on the way out, mind.
What Shahid? Are dwarves like Scottish or something? Or are Scottish people dwarves? These are the important questions in life. Okay, so we're going to the same spot. So this used to... So the name's Frida now. I think it used to just be Sherpa. I think. Nice. Cock. They do make some nice cock graphics here. Oh. No longer a Sherpa, you're a dwarf. Hello there.
Hello. How can I help you?
Can I see the survey you and your husband did on the cave under Death Plateau?
What do you want that for?
What did I want that for? Well, I am looking for another way to get onto Death Plateau so the guard can ambush the trolls. Your husband told me that there could be caves under it that I could use.
Oh, he would go telling you that, the old duffer.
You mean they aren't there? Oh, any?
There are some, but he doesn't
Oh, so I'm
understand
going over
that
the mountain
humans
still.
like you prefer running about and climbing over things instead of digging around.
You did seem a little upset about the idea of rock climbing.
Ah, yes, that sounds about right. He's always hated it, ever since I managed to get from Rimington to Tavaly overground faster than he went underground.
Ah, so he's a sore loser.
He tried going overground himself next time, slipped on some snow and ended up bashing his shoulder on a rock, bless him.
Oh. Thank you, PP Song. That's strange. My bot didn't send a notification. Let me try just doing it manually. Okay, I just did it manually and it worked instantly. Strange. Strange! That's all good, but thank you. He tried going overground himself next time, slipped on some snow, and ended up bashing his shoulder on a rock. Bless him.
Anyway, this survey. I can make a start on it after I get back from town, so you'll have to wait for me to be done with it. The survey we made is written in some very technical terms, and I'll need to dig out all the information for you.
Is there any chance you could do this, then go into town?
Well, I could, but I really need to get my climbing boots re-spiked. If I don't have that done, I might run into trouble if the weather turns.
So this is just Death Plateau, but we've just added like an extra dwarf in there. What if I went and got boots fixed for you? Okay.
Oh, that sounds like a pretty good idea. You're on. I'll make a start while you go take care of this little job for me. Just go and see Dunstan. He knows how I like them. Good smith, that man. But for a human, obviously.
Obviously. Where does he live?
In one of the houses to the east of Burthorpe Castle. His is the one in the middle. In fact, it would probably be quicker if you used the home teleport spell. It saves you running all the way there and then all the way back.
As you smell climb boots. Cool. Can I wear these ones? No. It still says the Sherpa! Jagex! The Sherpa's feet must be very small. I can't get them on. Jagex. Jagex! Examine. Pretty smooth for climbing. Okay, that part's fine. Alright, let's take their advice. 'Cause they're probably right. Actually, they're definitely right. Alrighty. Dunstan. I feel like this place feels less like gloomy and war torn or whatever. Like, it looks a little too, I don't know, normal towny now.
Hi. Did you want something?
Can you put fresh spikes on these climbing boots for me?
Hey, these are Frida's boots. Where did you get them?
From Frida, dumbass. You gave them to me to get respiked. Can you please do it?
I suppose so. There you go then. Here are your boots.
Damn, and works quick. What does it say now? Okay, that doesn't mention Sherpa. Climbing boots with spikes. Alright, straight to the point. Yes, can I go through, please?
I'm here to stop the trolls.
I like it. Did my guy just, like, condescendingly just tell him that sounds fun? The man's bitching about his job, and my guy's just like, that sounds fun. Yeah, wasn't there, like, a quest at one point where you meant to help that dude? Like, maybe around, like, EOC time. I know this changed since, like, when EOC kind of happened. Oh, no, not that. Is the report ready?
Aye, I just finished it about a minute before you walked in.
That's
You've
convenient.
got a good sense of timing.
That's great. I have your boots too, by the way.
That's grand. I'll take them off your hands. Here's the report.
Trader hands you a fresh copy of the survey. I'll take this back to Sabbath's cave. Is there anything you want me to take to him?
Nah, you're all right. He'd not accept it anyway, the stubborn goat that he is.
Yeah, I kind of sense that from him. Let's go. Yeah, screw you, Ben. I'm jealous. Holy shitballs, that HSP was good. Oh, that was a good HSP. Yeah. I haven't had a HSP in a bit. Which, for anyone who's not Australian, that's a halal snack pack, and they're fucking amazing. Can you help me with this survey? Oh, what's this?
This?
Oh,
Looks
yeah.
like the wife's done a nice
Voice
simple
actor.
version for you to follow.
Oh, fletching. Yeah, but I'd still like a little help, if that's alright.
You humans, give it here. Uh-huh. I see. That's it. All you need to do is dig over there. Looks like there's a weak point behind the rock that'll let you into the caverns.
Oh, right. Jesus, that's a big hitbox. Am I building this guy's... This guy's fucking with me, isn't he? He just wants me to build his trading post. That's a cool map. This is rather convenient.
Hey, watch it. You humans don't know how to mine cleanly at all, do you?
You're right, I have no idea. Well, it is pretty messy work.
Excuses, excuses. Hey, take these.
Use these rabbit sandwiches to heal when you get... Okay, thank you.
Frida keeps sending us them. She knows I hate tomato. Those caves will likely be dangerous, and even if you make it to the other side, you'll face some trolls. So, either I leave them to start stinking up the cave, or you eat them. Either way is good with me.
Actually, heal. 425. Got a new good, new best. What's this? New best healing food. Yo, what's that? Oh, what the hell? Interesting. Well, I guess we're going through here. Oh, these are agility shortcuts, not. I thought they were entries and exits to the place, and I was like, God damn, is this like a maze? But no, it's just agility. Climb up cliffside. Oh. What's up here? Oh. No, stop climbing up cliffside. Stop. No. And we go this way. Oh. Nice convenient rope swing. We love that. Oh, hopefully this means I'll get some agility XP for the reward. I keep saying it, but this game's really pretty. I think it's also like the color palette and the color, like how much saturation there is and stuff. Well, you look at that, Death Plateau. Did level 9? Yep. I'm sure we'll be able to ambush the trolls from up here. Yeah, you don't see one right next to you, do you? Well, those dirty, stupid trolls don't know a thing about, of course. Hello. Hello. Don't need healing with the Wraith. Does a pretty decent job at keeping you top. Fair enough. Hello.
I've the map. Yes, I've got the map, so me and my mate can have a look around for ways to get down to Human Town for the fighting.
You have a map to Berthorpe? Who made it?
Big Boss made it, but then I ate it.
Unfortunate.
Yes, then the other trolls say mean things. Look at the stupid troll. He's so stupid, he eats the map.
They right though,
then
buddy.
They all
they right.
call me the map from then on.
What are you doing here?
Lost.
Oh, you're really proving the whole clan wrong, right?
Me and the lads, we was looking for a way down to Human Town. The boss, he said, you carry this map I've made and go down to fight. Then I eat the map and all the others get angry.
How dare they?
And now I is lost. Then we is lost on this slope. We's got no food, we's got no map. So I ate everyone.
Okay, Hannibal? You ate everyone?
They was dead when I did it.
Well, if you were starving and they were dead.
Some of them try and pretend to be alive still. But I is smart troll, they no fool me.
Yes.
Hey, is you dead? Just checking. I
What's
ain't
happening?
you, human.
That voiceover is class. Stop distracting me. I think that takes care of him. I'll just take that tunnel or teleport back to Berthorpe and speak to Denolf. Wait, is that it? Do I literally just go back? Oh, I should back through the tunnel, teleport, or some of the means. Okay. Alrighty. Don't know. I found a hidden overlook point out over the route that leads up to Death Plateau.
Can we use it to get onto the plateau itself?
Maybe. We'll attack the trolls from where they don't expect it.
Ambush their reinforcements as they come through the choke point. I love it. We'll thin their numbers and give our troops on the front line some respite. Come,
That does sound good.
let's plan a little surprise for the trolls. You've done great work today.
And I would like a great reward. Preferably in the form of agility XP. Oh, we got a cutscene. Never mind. Fancy, fancy. There was a firefight! Alrighty, for a repeatable delivery task. What the fuck is that? What the fuck's a delivery task?
That went very well.
Thank you.
When you're ready, those archers will need some crates delivering to them. We have a number of reward lamps for you, if you want them.
Oh, really? I thought when I called as Guardian, did you need more help?
Well, I suppose that the archers on the overlook...
Your supplies in your
Here,
back.
take this crate up to the commander at the ambush point. It has some supplies for the men. More arrows and replacement
God,
bows,
that's ages
plus
away.
a few luxuries like cakes and letters from friends and family.
Oh, I regret my
The
decision.
commander has some reward lamps. Once they get this gear, he'll give you some to help with your trip.
I'm guessing this is a daily or weekly or some shit. Hopefully. Or just like a complete noob
Saradon will
trap.
be with you.
And thank you. Alrighty. Do I really have to go all the way back that way? Berthorpe Troll Cave, what the fuck? Oh, hello, Bubby.
I'm here to stop.
The dog just came bolting in. Hey. Oh, there's the reward. Oh, please give me agility 100. That's fuck all. Oh. Maybe we do herb lore until 42. This herb lore's kind of a pain to train, and it's even harder for me in this because I don't know how to get herbs as easily. Because like a lot of the early game stuff, like the Chaos Druids, is different. I'm kind of like time gated by whatchamacallits? Farming. How heavy are we talking? Examine. Wait, how do you tell how heavy it is? What the shit? Wait. Oh, 23. We've got 23 kills. I was about to say, I haven't actually noticed any weight stuff. Why doesn't it say what weight things are? Oh, what the fuck is... Oh my god, this game has so many menus. Where's this? View overflows. What the fuck is that? What is that icon? Help. Send help. There's probably like a much shorter way to get back up there, and people who've done this probably laughing. I just hope that the actual reward lamps are okay. Which one do I talk to? Commander.
Good day. Come to see how things are going.
I'm drop off these supplies.
Thanks. These supplies will come in handy. We still need some more supplies, though. Please. Not a lot. I think they're up to something, but we'll be ready for them. We still need more supplies, though. Please speak to Denulf.
Oh, well, it depends on what you're giving me. Whoa, 3 lamps. 180. Okay. 180. Okay. Now we're cooking. Wait, what did that... I went from what? 8 to 12. With the quest and this. I have a feeling that's still shit. Necromancy. Marintals and cadaver berries. You now have all the levels for digs. Ooh. Alright, we can delete that. I'm gonna do Merlin's Crystal. Where is it? That. Oh, you will need to delete. Defeat a level 23 knight, you might anger a level 70 demon. Okay, I'm trying to remember level 70 demon. Alright, but I'm assuming I'm going to Cathy for this, or Sears. If it's like the old one. Camelot Castle, yeah. Alright. But before that, I have to go to the toilet. We'll be back in a minute. And I'm back. Cool. What was it on? Merlin's Crystal. Alright. Camelot Castle, it said. Be. I already do the quest. I mean, it says it's light blue, so I'm guessing it's got the quest tracking enabled. Chests. Oh, safes. Do you actually need the stethoscopes for the safes, or is it just they make them faster like a lockpick? Oh, 83. Awesome. Wait, check the other one in case. I wonder. Also, seeing a setup like that makes me wonder if it can like tick manipulate, like going back and forth between them with something. Welcome to my court. I am King Arthur, King of Anakar, and liege to these brave and worthy knights. Anakar, where's that? Yeah, that's a good question. I was just wondering that. Another world called Terragard. Oh, is the demon the Black Knight, dude? Legend says we of House Anakar will return there in its greatest time of need. That's not for quite a while yet, because this is the Holy Grail. No, that's the Holy Grail that it would do that, right? Yeah, the Holy Grail, because that's a play on the Holy Grail, Monty Python movie, and they have to get past the Black Knight, who's like, it's just a flesh wound. And it saddens me that younger kids don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. That shit was before my generation, and I still love it. So we've moved the whole whoa, shadows. So we've moved the whole outfit here. For now, we're passing the time on Gillinor. Okay. All right. Well, I'm looking for a quest. I'm looking for a quest. My knights all appreciate a good quest. Unfortunately, our current quest is to rescue Merlin, a powerful wizard of the Knights of the Round Table. Back on Terragard, he got himself trapped in some sort of magical crystal. We've moved him from the Anakan cave we found him in, and now he's upstairs in this tower. I'll see what I can do then. Talk to my knights if you need any help. This one I remember bits and pieces, but like, not that much. Good day to you, sir. Funny enough, I think this is like the main thing I remember is I'm pretty sure this gives like 5 quest points, which just seems absurd compared to some of the other quests. Any ideas how to get Merlin out of the crystal? I'm a little stumped myself. We've tried opening it with anything and everything. All right, you didn't have to end the conversation with me. You have another question. Do you know how Merlin got trapped? I would guess this is the work of evil Morgan Le Fay. And where could I find her? She lives in a stronghold to the south of here, guarded by some renegade knight led by Mordred. Okay. Any idea how to get into Morgan Le Fay's stronghold? I think this is what Jack got stuck on. No, you've got me stumped there. Okay. I think you're meant to go to like the docks and like hop in a crate or something, but Jack said he tried that and it didn't work. Hello there, adventurer. What do you want from me? I'd like some advice on breaking into Mordred's fort. Sorry, I can't help you with that. Well, I mean, that gives me a hint that we're meant to ask people, because it didn't give me like dialogue options like it did with the other guy. So it's like, it seems like the quest has progressed, which means I probably have to talk to different ones until someone does tell me. I'm afraid not. I don't have any suggestion. Thanks, I'll try and find someone. Maybe the king. My court, yeah, blah, blah, blah. I'm looking for a quest. I'm already on it. Never mind, you're useless. Let's ask you, Sir K. Oh, no, they're not the task system. Hello. Any ideas on getting into Maud's fort? Do you think you may be up to... Yes, good guess. I think that you may be onto something. Unfortunately, his fortress is impenetrable. Well, thanks, fucker. Where's someone else? Looking for yellow dot. Let's have a look upstairs. Oh, wait, there's someone there. Oh, no, that's a player. Never mind. Surely Lancelot will know. He's the famous one. Greetings to the court of King Arthur. Any suggestions of getting into the fort? Straight to the point. We'll be using magic. Unfortunately, Merlin is our magic expert. Okay. Maybe. I don't know if he's just throwing random ideas out, but... Lancelot, the greatest knight in the land. What do you want? Any ideas? It was built in a strong defensive position. It's on a big rock sticking out in the sea. 2 ways in that I know of. The large heavy front doors and the sea entrance, only penetrable by boat. They take all their deliveries by boat. That's what I thought. I guess it depends on which dock we got to go to then. Like, I thought Catherby, but that's where Jack said he tried. I don't suppose you have any idea. Okay. Would that we could. Mordred and his cronies have been thorns outside for far too long. Okay. Let's have a look at the quest. Delivery by sea. Yes. Alright. Let's go ask at Catherby at least. Maybe there's someone who has an idea. Because I think Catherby is the nearest dock. I don't remember if it's this quest or another quest, but like you see someone like loading stuff. Like they carry crates to a thing as like the hint. No. Try and click on all these. No. Alright, let's actually talk to the charter ships. Can I help you? Yes, who are you? Trader Stan's crew. We're all part of the largest... Where's Trader Stan? We're all part of the largest fleet of trading and sailing vessels. Okay. Get to a port in a hurry, then you can charter one of our ships. Yes. Yeah, that's just the regular charter stuff. We might dock at once in a while. Some exotic stuff to trade. We certainly do. We have items from all over the world. Would you like to take a look? Tricky. With all due credit, Trader Stan is a great employer, but he insists we wear the latest in high fashion, even when sailing. Do you have even the slightest idea how tricky it is to sail on this stuff? I mean, my character did bring it up. Some of us tried tearing... Wait, is that that's the castle right there. I thought it was further away. Maybe I go on the boat? No, because it didn't say anything about reworking the quest, right? Unless you can just walk. No, because there's a tree there. Maybe I will have a look anyway. No, but then it said you can deliver shipment by sea. No, maybe, yeah, because I see search crates. Maybe I do search crates. Let's see if I can go in. It's hard to hate him when we know how much he sells out on this gear. Oh, shells out on this gear. If I fall overboard because of this get up one more time, I'm going to quit. Okay. The next guess is Aaron, but I think I might just go over there and see if I can walk around it. And like hop into one of the crates, because it could just be that they're going to bring the delivery in. Oh, wait. Search crates. This is the hiding crate. Wait, the crate is empty. It's just about Jack. I swear to fucking God. He said he looked at the docks. I'm screenshotting this and sending this to him. You said you checked the docks. Pepe sauce. Yeah, I think so. Pack it aboard soon as you can. I'm on a tight schedule for deliveries. You feel the crate being lifted. Oof, wow, this is pretty heavy. That's rude. I never knew candles weighed this much. Okay, so it was the candle guy's stuff. Put your winding and stow it in the hole. You feel the crate being put down inside the ship. And you wait. And wait. Casting off. You feel the ship start to move. Feels like you're now at sea. Thank you. This is a play-by-play commentary. The ship comes to a stop. Well, bro, you could have just had a plank of wood reach how close that place was. Unloaded Morge's deliveries onto the jetty. Aye, aye, Captain. You feel the crate being lifted. You can hear someone mumbling outside. Stupid Aaron making me candles never weigh this much. Hurts. Union. He's gonna talk to the union about it. My ship, be different. Stupid Aaron. You feel the crate being put down. I should have said no, just see if I could just chill in here forever. Okay. Good job, Jack. Clearly didn't search hard enough. Renegade 9, Renegade 9. Let me go upstairs. It said I had to fight a level 21, didn't it? Yeah. Oh, no. Uh-oh. Isn't there, like, a mean guy up top? Ow. Okay. Can I search the table? Alright. Don't attack me yet. There might be a way to enter. He's level 23. This quest said something about killing a level 23, right? We need to defeat level 23 knight. Yep. Safe spot. Nope. Not here. Yeah. Damn it. No! Let me safe spot you. Whatever. Kill him. Give him the finger. Finger him. Finger him. Finger him again. Wait, what? What? Was I not meant to fight him again? Wait, unlock combat target. I'm done. Oh, that must be because I got like all this shit on now. Stop, please, spare my son. Okay. Why'd you get a full heal? Tell me how to untrap Merlin and I might. Clearly that I am responsible for it. No shit. I suppose I can live with that fool Merlin being loose for the sake of my son. Setting him free won't be easy though. You will need to find a magic symbol as close to the crystal as you can find. You will need to drop some bat bones on the magic symbol while holding a lit black candle. Okay, this sounds familiar. This was some of the mighty spirit Thorantax. You will need to bind him with magic words. Then you will need the sword Excalibur with the spell was bound in order to show. Okay. Oh, with which? Where can I find Excalibur? The Lady of the Lake, Crystalmere, that's in Tavali. I don't know if she'll give it to you, though. She can be rather temperamental. One of the magic words, please. You will find the magic words at the base of one of the Chaos Altars. Which Chaos Altar? I cannot. Bruh. Maybe it's the one where the Chaos Druids are, then. If it's Tavali and Tavali. What's the... Wait, search table. What do you got in here? There's nothing interesting. That's just bait. That's just bait. I'm gonna go down just in case there's a thingy here. An altar. Not that I see. No. There's a chest. Interesting. Ow. Ow. Nothing of interest. Fuck. Oh, bats. Alright. What level are you? 14. Goodbye. Die! Glowing wisp? What the? Oh, it's this thing again. Alright. Bat bones, gold charm. We take that as well. Alright. Now I need to go to Tavali. As close to crystals as I can to find. I will need some. Magic words from a chaos altar. Lit black candle. I'll go to the candle maker because we're here. And I'll go into the bank to heal my health. He's going to want me to get something, I guess, to get a black candle. Alright. One of my fine candles. Have you got any black candles? In the candle making trade, we have a tradition that it's very bad luck to make black candles. Very bad luck. Good money for one. I still don't know. Tell you what, I'll supply you with a black candle if you can bring me a bucket full of wax. Okay. Surely that's not... Wait, I probably might just grab a bucket just in case. Wait, do I even have any more? Okay, I do. The beehives are over here. Oh, this would be so much more fun if I never ever played like old school or anything either. Talk to beekeeper. Convert to hidey hole. What? Apiary? You mean all these beehives? Filled with bees, bees, also wax. Help yourself to as much wax, honey. But you'll need some insect repellent. Right, I remember that. The beekeeper hands... Oh, okay, cool. So we just hand you it. Leave the bees, though. I love bees. Okay. Alright, well. I think he told a joke at the end, but I wasn't paying attention. See the bees leaving the hive? Thank you. Easy. Fly back into the hive as the repellent wards off. Wards off? Wears off. What am I on about? Candlemaker. Have you got any wax yet? Yes, sir. Oh, he just gave it to me. Okay. Taverly? No, that's plus room. I'm not a fan of this menu. I don't think it's particularly clear compared to like a house portal, for example. Like a portal nexus. But maybe that's something people get used to the more they play. Maybe that should be counted as a skill issue. And the lake's over there. Also, if it's anything like the other game, this will mean this will be my... Oh my god, what the fuck is that? Is that Willow? He seems a little out of place. I'm gonna have a look because I'm curious. Betamax. Wasn't that like a video format or something? Or like a company? Juju teleporting spirit. A small bag that carries... What the fuck is this for? I guess that's all it's going to tell me. Alright, we're not going to dive into that. We don't get distracted here ever. Ooh, what's that? Jerks. Alright. Lady of the Lake. No, those were those things that I did for the Heroic Ritual, I think. Even these walls look really nice. Good day to you, sir. I seek the Sword Excalibur. I have that artifact in my possession. It is very valuable and not an artifact to be given away lightly. I would want to give it away only to one who is worthy and good. How am I meant to prove that? I shall set a test for you. First, you need to travel to Port's Rim, then go to the upstairs room of the jeweler's shop there. Okay. That's it? That's your instruction? What? That was your instruction? Just go upstairs? That's sus. That's sus. And they did say something about a 72 demon, so I'm a little concerned about that. Although if this part doesn't involve the 72 demon, then I'm assuming the Chaos Altar will be near a Level 72 demon. Is that a lesser demon? A lesser demon 70. Yeah, I think I was 72. I said 72. 70. I don't remember what lesser demon level are. Oh, wait, what? I am starving. Can you find your heart to spare a simple loaf of bread? I don't have any bread with me, otherwise I would. You get some, you know. Wait, that was our test, wasn't it? Bread, bank. I have bread. Surely that's her test. Rabbit sandwiches. Dante. I'm pretty sure I've still got bread left. Pretty sure. Yoink. I'm lucky that he disappeared at the end there, because that's what caught my attention and made me think twice. Like, as soon as I entered, he just vanished. Hey, he's gone again. Will he just appear again? There we go. What the hell is happening? He just disappears and appears and disappears. Yes, here you go. Thank you very much. And there's a lady like, know it! Here's Excalibur, got it well. Oh, that's all I had to do. Does this have the special ability thing in this game? Oh. You just activate it. It does! Where's your spec bar in this? Can't use this ability. Do you not wait? Do specials have their own thing now, or am I just tripping? I mean, I can't think of where it would be listed. You know, I never thought about that. I have not seen spec bar stuff in a while. Huh. Alright, level 70... I'm pretty... Like, the Chaos Altar... There is a Chaos Altar... Level 70. I don't think the lesser demons are 70. I think they're 72. I mean, I guess that could have changed. Let me check Tavoli Dungeon, because we have the Chaos Druid area where... I don't remember seeing a Chaos Altar there, but... Maybe there is, and that's just what they look like now, and I just didn't know it. Did it move it up here, or is that the... No, that's where the... Those water dudes are. Magic symbol from a Chaos Altar. This doesn't remember which Chaos Altar. Oh, it's over here. Climb down. Hey, what are these raiders? There are lesser demons down here, but I don't think that's where the Chaos Altar is. Yeah, bugger off. Leave me alone. That's the cauldron. There's Chaos Druids around here. I need to keep an eye out for level 70 because it's saying that level 32. That's just an altar slab. That's not a Chaos Altar anymore. I feel weakened. Yeah, fuck you. I shut it. Okay, that's not a Chaos Altar. There is a lesser demon, yeah, in here. They are level 70. Okay. So there's something to do with a lesser demon. And it says you can have a chance at aggroing them, so it doesn't say you definitely do. I'm a little... let's just hide for a second and get some run energy back. I don't remember if there's something like I know you get the key and stuff, so we might as well go there since we're here. Is there like an altar or something here? I don't think so from memory. That's the door to get into the Blue Dragons. It won't be that way because otherwise it would say we might anger a Blue Dragon. Or like might anger something at that level. Where else would a Chaos Altar be that has lesser demons that you run past? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Flag it. Lesser demons, lesser demons, lesser demons. Is that a bank icon? Am I tripping? No, it's a person. What is this? Archaeology collection. What the fuck? Oh god, these are aggressive. Alright, let's have a quick look. Ow. Ow. Open doors. What's in here? What's over there? Tiny Forge. Okay, Lieutenant. What's in here? They're locked tight. Okay. No one's attacking me here. Alright, let's just hide in this corner. Nope, nope, oh, nope. Nope, he didn't attack me. Okay, never mind. Maybe I go and talk to those people. The knights and see. Doesn't remember which one. You're fucking yeah! He's useless and you're a prick. Oh god. Hey. Let's try not to waste my precious, amazing, high healing food. Ow. Alright, hide. Let's actually look at the map here. Have they added an altar anywhere? That's an obelisk. No, not that I can see. Alright, so here's the keep. Where would I find lesser demons? And a chaos altar. There's a chaos altar here, right? Bats and ogres. But this is just chaos druids, though. That's not. Let me just double check that it does say you may anger one, right? You might anger a level 70 demon. Okay. God, is this going to be another one of the situations, just like with Waterfall Quest, where I do the step that Jack messed up that was so simple, and then I tease him, and then I get stuck at the next step, or a different step. RuneScape surface, that's where we are. I mean, they're on Crandor, but that's the Karamja thing, and there's no altar there that I'm aware of. I don't think there's one. This part of the dungeon? No. Oh, so they're just greater demons, they're not lesser demons. Yeah, and there's Elvarg and stuff. It's not that. Wait, would it be this one? No, because there is the altar here, but I don't remember there being level 70s. And this is trapped anyway. Level 70s with Chaos Altar, unless it's not. The fuck is that? Oh, that's where King Black Dragon is. I don't believe there's any in there. There's no lesser demons in here, right? Chaos Druids, Cronon, Black Demons. I mean, Chrono's on is sort of. No, but there's nothing in there anyway. I think the best thing to do is go back to her and ask. And then if that fails, then we ask at Sears. I mean, not Sears, at Camelot. Also, I haven't found any pompous merchants yet. I saw them in the thieving thing, but I didn't see them anywhere. Alright, come back. Alright. I mean, this is the area that we're in. What are the dungeons? We have this. This is the Ikov one, though, right? I don't think there's one. No. Clear marker. Why won't this let me click it? This is Temple of Ikov, isn't it? Oh, no, that's a... Oh, no, Temple of Ikov's there. Wait, but they've changed... Oh, that shit's changed, though. Fuck. Down underground. Shadow Warriors, Goblins, blah, 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 blah. Here be Goblins, I like that. I think that's the Fishing Guild area. Alright, open the door. Oh, you son of a... Knock, knock. Can I interest you in some double glazing? Hello. Oh my god, don't tell me it's going to make me actually go through the crate stuff again. Just to get in there. I feel like I'm probably going to need to ask a Camelot anyway. Just big enough, yes. And wait, and wait. Oh my god, it's doing it all over again. The hell is another crate over there? Why are these the only two crates? Yes. Maybe I can talk to Mordred this time? Oh, what's down? Wait, what's down? I don't remember this. Oh. There is a dank smell of suffering wafting from that. What the fuck? Where does it come up from then? Fuck. You dick. Alright, I'm killing you again. Just out of principle. Oh my god, I need to turn this off again. I changed it for pickpocketing. Choose option. Let's do combat level. Die. Alright, hopefully she spawns again. Okay, talk to her. Oh my god, are you serious, game? Zap. Zap. Please stop. Spare my son. Okay. Come out on trap. If you guessed correctly. Yes, we've been through all of this. What are the magic words? Of one of the Chaos Altars. Which Chaos Altar I cannot remember. Okay, let's stop talking to her and then we'll try... I want to kill her son for that. I'm going to search this again. God damn it. Alright, we're going to go ask at Camelot. Wait, configure? What the fuck is configure? What the hell? Yeah, so... Oh, okay. Interesting. Chaos Altar, Chaos Altar, Chaos Altar. There's something over there, or is that for a different... I think that's for a different quest. Is it? Yeah, well, I mean, that wouldn't be a Chaos Altar. That's for a different quest, I think. Maybe for, like, Holy Grail or something. Alright, let's start with King Arthur, then Lancelot, then we'll figure out what the other douches. I'm looking for a quest. You... fucking useless. I mean, I can't really call him useless when I can't figure out what to do either. Alright, no, not you. Lancelot, help me. Help. Send help. Oh man. Alright, you're useless too. Wait, there's an altar. What's that altar? May I help you? Know anything about Excalibur? It's a really good sword. Where can I find it? Nope, I've already got it. Readings to the court. Any suggestions? I've already got Excalibur. Alright, wield it maybe. Let's just see if my guy learns any suggestions on finding... Either my character is the stupidest in the world, or the guy that he's talking to is the stupidest in the world. My god, why are they asking about Excalibur? Yoink. Alright, you're... I'm also not seeing this altar. Oh, there it is. Hello, I need to find Excalibur. Good luck with that. They're just fucking with me, aren't they? Alright. What the... That's not what I was looking for. Examine. Alright. I'm gonna go try the one with Zeller and the Twisted, but I think I've got the agility level for that. What the fuck is that? Oh, it's a penguin. I think I quit not long after the penguin stuff, if I remember correctly. Alright. Go into this up here. At least this might show me what a Chaos Altar looks like nowadays. I feel like this is also karma for teasing Jack. Again. Oh, this feels weird. No, Nightmare Zone. I kind of like that though. Nightmare Zone just feels so out of place. Like it seems like the most band-aid solution to a problem. Slash web. Or just slash web over here, whatever. Examine plaque. Something is written... Oh, good job. Learn to read. Giant bat. Chaos. Ooh, 65. Maybe there's a different level 70 thing here. I don't think I have the... Yeah, I don't have the agility level for this. It's not a requirement, so it can't be this. Create Chaos Altar. Examine Chaos Altar. Oh, darn time, I can't even quite see. Okay, so they do look like the old ones. Okay. Alright, maybe we try the one next to Tavali, and just maybe there's a level 70 druid or something? North of Valador. I feel like this is too far for the quest. I mean, you go to Tavali, I guess. Level 70 thought is throwing me off because it's a lesser demon. Or something I don't know about. What the fuck is that? Oh, that's a mini game, I guess. Alright. Hey, does this even exist anymore? Captured temple. That's how... No, because if it's captured, then there's probably not a level 70 thing for me to aggro. Monk of Zamorak, come on. Wait. Oh no, that's mine. Damn it, I got excited for a second there, but that's my marker. Alright. Right at... Zamorak, there's no level 70. You already have full prayer points. Yes. Wait, did it say level 71? Oh, it does say demon. I'm an idiot. It does say level 70 demon, so it's a lesser demon, 100%. But where? What the fuck is that? Ray of Bandos remains. What the fuck? What the fuck? This must be some God Wars shit. Interesting. Lesser demon, lesser demon, lesser demon, lesser demon, lesser demon. The only thing I can think of is the Tavoli dungeon, but why would there be? It's not. There's nothing on the map for it, and I'm not seeing like dungeons near here. And Trana has greater demons, I think, so it won't be that. Let me just double check. Yeah, zombies and greater demons. I don't know where my character's running to. Not that, because there's no demon there. Chaos altar near a demon. And this quest hasn't been reworked, so it won't be in a new area. That's what the goblin... Oh, that's the Arties. No. Couldn't be in Edgeville. Yeah, I checked Edgeville before. Dave's basement dome. That's just for using the hell rats or whatever. Chasm of Tears. Can't be this. I mean, there's no thing there anyway. That's too new, and this hasn't been done. That's new. That can't. I'm just going to double check that it hasn't been redone at all, right? No, it hasn't. It's still the 2002 version. I have the Holy Sword with me. A lit black candle. All right, let's just light the candle anyway. Close this and then open it again, I guess. Wherever I put it. Close the crystal as I can. The magic words from a chaos altar. Alright, let's just have him prone for a second, drain a tiny bit. Alright, now let's try and pray this. But there's no demon. I feel like I must be missing something in the Tavoli dungeon. Oh, I'm gonna go back to the castle. I'm gonna go up to where Merlin's crystal actually is. Maybe there's a hint there. I don't know what the fuck that is. I guess that's a new entrance for White Wolf Mountain, maybe? Alright. Alright, I gotta also make sure not to bury the bat bones. That would be horrible. Oh, actually, I want to check something. It said that there is a dungeon under here, but you don't want to go in it. Let me go like this for a sec. that is the... So, alright, so that's not actually going to show me. It's a different area. Damn it. Alright, so okay, we'll just try and ask you anyway. No, not the... God damn it, I keep doing that. Hello. Any ideas on more fun? I've got Excalibur! The quest log says I have Excalibur. Search statue. Maybe I can search statue anyway, just because the rock's there, and I can get the penguin point thing. But we're gonna do this first. Let's go up to Merlin. Smash giant crystal. That seems protected. Okay. There is nothing. Alright, let's just go around here. Search the statue. Oh, I gotta manually go through the gate. I don't believe there's anything in the Fremennik direction. I'm gonna spy on this first, because I don't know when it disappears, or if it disappears or not, or if it just walks. Why should I spy on it? Oh, I have to start that stuff first. Ugh. Search? Nothing interesting. Lovely. Why did I gotta... No. Let's go here. Wait, no. Okay, let's just check that. Maybe it's not an actual Chaos Altar. Oh, wait. Total points. 1. Oh, so it gave it to me anyway, even though... Whatever. I'm not going to question it. I got a point. But this shit ain't getting me to do that weekly stuff again. That was horrible. Okay. Activate? No. I think I'd better learn the... Oh, maybe this is where I'm meant to do it then. But where is the altar? Okay. No, it's not up there. Coldgrim didn't even exist at the time. It's not in Waterbirth. That didn't exist. This did exist, but there's no demons there. Okay, well, yeah, it shouldn't be in there. There's no demons in there. I don't even think Feldup Hills properly existed back then. What the fuck is this? Legiones. No idea. But this definitely didn't exist back then. There's no altar in here, though. Oh, there's no lesser demons either. It's just greater demons. Am I wrong? Is there something in Karamja? I don't think there is, because I have, like, farmed here before. Like, when this is where you would go for, like, free-to-play farming. For, like, Rune Medhelms. I don't think there's any in here. No. No. Oh, well, that's not even the dig site anymore. I mean, oh, that's a dig site, I guess. This has changed. Oh, what's this? Skinweaver? The fuck? 3rd level. What the fuck is this? Second level. Oh, I actually think I've heard of this. Or, like, remember I thinking a different polypore. No, I remember there was a polypore staff or something. I don't remember overall. Oh. It can't be in Mauritania because it doesn't have a quest requirement for it. There's none in Varrock Dungeon. I mean, Varrock Sewer. What the fuck is this crypt? That's not what I even meant to click on. Into Varrock Sewers. Back up Varrock Sewers. That's just Edgeville. Stronghold of Security. Wait. Stronghold of Safety. There's security and there's safety. Okay. Oops. Transportation. Yeah, zooming in didn't reveal anything. Are there any in Trinum Village? No. I don't think there's any at the Urania altar, but I also don't think the Urania altar existed back then. I feel like I'm gonna go. I might just explore whatchamacallit, Tavali. Maybe there is something that's just not as obvious anymore, or something as an obelisk. It doesn't say anything about the Blue Dragon, so I don't think I have to walk past them. But I might check. There was something here, I think, maybe back in the day. I know there's a fence there, but I feel like this serves some kind of purpose, but I don't remember what. I am also curious about the Wizard's Tower, but that's changed as well. Because I don't think there was a... Was there a Chaos Altar with that lesser... No, because I can't aggro that lesser demon. Mist Lane Underground. Drainor Sewers, Vitamin, yeah, blah, 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 blah. That's Edgeville, isn't it? Yeah. Oh, and there's Varrock, so it's not there either. Alright, let's just go have a look at the Tavali dungeon again. Unless it's like... Something's giving me an inkling that there's like maybe a hidden altar thing, like someone, I don't know, like hiding it. I feel like that happens at some quest somewhere, but I don't remember what, let alone if it's this one. Or is there something in the Bats area? No, because it can't be the Bats area, because the Bats area is before you would go past the lesser demons. Right, maybe we check this, and if there's nothing here, we go and check Karamja. There's no 40 agility requirement, so I can't go that way. Right? Required item requirements, yeah, none. Okay, that's the black demon. Yeah, that's not a chaos altar, so that doesn't count. Okay, no, that's not actually anything in there. I would say I'll talk to this guy, because this used to be a Chaos Altar, I think, but there's no level 70 demons. Alright, let's just go here for a sec. Oh, that Black Knight might attack me, yeah. Lesser demon, lesser demon. Oh, what? Did he just hit me over the thing as well? Oh, no, that's not good if that's the case. Ow. Nothing, 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 nothing. The thing is a Chaos Altar should be marked on the map. I also didn't think about the fact that I need to get back out of here and I have one food. Be gentle. Be gentle. Be gentle. Alright, that was a little gentle. The thing is, I don't see anything from here. I don't think I need to go all the way in to see that there is no... Oh, get the fuck away from me. Ow. Oh, no. Where's somewhere I can hide? Hide. Please. No, they don't get trapped. Hide. 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 I'm confuzzled. Ramja. Lesser demon, chaos altar. Unless the lesser demon can't be at a later spot, like a later part, a different part of the quest. Crap, I'm also not able to go past a bank to heal back up. Whoa, what the fuck have they done here? What? Wait, does this just go straight to the Tsar City now rather than the... Okay, that, I guess, is the old entrance. This is the Tsar entrance? What's this? No, that's a whatchamacallit dungeoneering thing, right? God damn it! I don't think it's in Karamja. Didn't exist. Can't get in from this side, can you? Without... Isn't there another requirement to get in this way? Well, that's still... Necromancer. I don't remember that. But that just might be me not remembering. One World Wakes. White Wolf. That's just different White Wolf entrances. Am I right about there being a secret altar? That's just a Holy Grail. I don't remember. I don't know how much this has changed because I don't see a Temple of Icov anymore. Oh, Jack just logged in. Whoops, what did I click on? Oh, I think I clicked on this by accident. Cavalier is the only place that's making sense to me, but there's nothing there. Why did you have to forget? Chaos Altar, Chaos Altar, Chaos Altar, Chaos Altar. Can't be that. The thing is, it's not just a Chaos Altar, right? It's a Chaos Altar, a level 70 demon, cannot be behind a skill requirement or a quest requirement, because Merlin's Crystal has neither of those listed. What the fuck is this? Dwarven Mines. Oh, it's just changed position, I guess. Access to Bellador. Lesser demon. I got an idea. Let's turn off everything except let's find altars. I did not know there was an altar there. All right. Witch Haven didn't exist back then. Monastery, no. That's a druidic ritual. That was what's his face. Wait. The Chaos Order doesn't even show up. Oh. Bruh. But it showed up in this dungeon. Oh, I need to add dungeon entrances. How do I... Is it navigation? Shortcut? No, not shortcut. Activities? Dungeon. I don't like that it has ones that are linked and not linked. Like, why can't I look at that? I mean, this could be helpful too. Let's narrow it down. Where are all the dungeons? I looked at literally all of those, or they're ones that are too new. What's this? Crafting Guild Mine. That's just all Dwarven Mines. That's Mole. I don't know what the fuck that is, but that wasn't around at the time. Wilderness Dungeon. I mean, wouldn't it warn me if you have to go into the wilderness? Yo, what the fuck is that? No. Up. No! This is Greater Demons. Can't be in there, that's locked behind Dragon Slayer. Not Tower of Life. I don't think ZMI was even then, like, even around at the time either. Brandor is Dragon Slayer. I don't think those existed. This definitely didn't exist. I remember when they added Piscatorius. What the fuck? What the fuck is Romano's Forge? Mistplane Underground. I don't remember. Oh, wait, no, I do remember some of this. Yeah, that's right. So the basement, where you do the puzzle, and then like the lever door puzzle, and then where the count actually is. Dark Wizard's Tower. Maybe? I mean, I haven't got any other fucking ideas. Hey, is this also that's the witch's house. They've moved the witch's house. Interesting. I mean, I haven't got any other ideas, so maybe I go to the Dark Wizard's Tower and maybe it's somewhere, like, upstairs or something. Okay, let's have a look. I've got no other ideas at the moment. Let's have a look. Okay, just grab my drink. So what, down this? Oh, let's go into the bank. We'll get some high healing food, the best food in the game, some onions. Also put the charm away and the insect repellent. Oops, that can go into there for now. The quest items, let's grab our trusty onions. Go to the Dark Wizard's Tower. And just maybe there is a Chaos Altar there. So I don't remember what else the Dark Wizard's Tower is used for. And it is around the ocean area that the other place is, so maybe? Yeah, well, go and get your ball back yourself, little shit. Dark Wizard, Dark Wizard, Dark Wizard, Dark Wizard, 35. Alright. Third staircase behind, right? Run, 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 run. Spellbook. Ow. Oh. Don't mind me, lads. Oh, I said that and they started coming after me. Examine? No. Why is everything multi-combat? Oh, climb up! Oh god, trust the onion. Onion. Let me up. Hello, Mr. Xander. Can I close this, please? Leave me alone. Hello, Xander. Who are you? Trespassing, not to mention attacking my students. I didn't attack them, they attacked me. No, I think I'll stay for a bit. So that wasn't it. I've tried being polite. Now, what are you doing? Oh no. Where am I going? Where does he send me? Lumbered Swamp. Okay, that's not too bad. I guess you're already. Well, fuck it. Since we're here, let's go check the Wizard's Tower for that lesser demon. Even though it can't actually be aggro to me. Maybe they done goofed? I don't remember if there's an altar or not there. But I guess we'll find out. I didn't think I would have this much trouble with Merlin's Crystal. I don't think I need to eat. This is one of the problems with the old quests, is they're not particularly as well written. Like, the newer ones are way more complicated, but they have a lot of, like, really good, like, writing and hints and everything like that. Alright, so descend. Was it this floor? No. No, not set. Fuck. Bottom floor, then up one. Bottom floor, then up one. Okay. Is there an altar here? No. Fuck. Will you tell me the spell by any
chance? The tower
chance?
still stands, and I may be trapped here for another 100 years. I can wait. Return when you have half-mastered magic and prayer, and you may even interest me.
You there! Stop that! Speaking to the demon is strictly forbidden! It's been here longer than anyone remembers. I dare say some foolish wizard summoned it while meddling with forces they did not fully understand. Every time it's destroyed, it reappears on the same spot. So we built a containment ward around it and left it there.
Alright. New plan. Malzar's Maze. I think that has one in it, but it doesn't have an altar. And that's for another quest anyway. That's for the Dragon Slayer. Earthwolf Underground? I mean, this shouldn't be it. No. No, yeah. I don't think it's a Trino. Maybe we try this? It says it's a different quest. Well, maybe the Sorcerer's Tower? Because that is very close to here. Maybe there's something upstairs? Let's go to Artie. I will say, I'm having fun trying to figure this out. I guess we check on these. Can we sell any of you? Hello, bunnies. Child. Elder. But one of them said gather produce, right? Nope. Ah, never mind. Go back to sell bunnies. Unless I have to walk in before it updates anything. Elder. Oh, I have to walk in to update things. Okay. Gather produce. Gather produce. I don't know what that does. Gather produce. Oh, he almost dead. Cure disease. Check the head. Coughs as you try to examine it. Check the eyes. Keep darting around with a sense of wonder. That sounds like a hallucination. Legs seem fine. Stomach's a little swollen. Curse? Oh. Routine cough. Wait, what did it say about the cough? Ruler of all the other millions. Okay. Alright, whatever. 26 farming. Okay, what was I doing? I was going up here. Oh, my Tarman's done. Fuck, have I been doing it this long? Alright, if it's not at, like... Yeah, this is Ikov's temple. What if I climb down and just see what it does? This looks like they've completely redone Ikov's temple for whatever reason. But I don't remember there being lesser demons down here. Yeah, there's not. Right? No. Alright, we'll check the Sorcerer's Tower. Maybe she is the Sorcerer? I mean, I'm not seeing anything up top. Hello there. Anyone home? Oh, no. Search bookcase. I'm just gonna search everything. Alright. I don't even know if this is her house or not. But it's like, it's nearby enough that I'm like, maybe. Nothing looks interesting. Oh wait, I didn't finish searching the books. Damn it. Examine the crystal ball. Enchant staves. No, I'm not doing your quest now. I'm already on a quest, buddy. I guess I try that. Whatever that is. Oh, what the fuck is that? Oh, my brain, it's hurting. My brain is hurting. Open ancient door. Okay, I'm assuming it's not this. That is very much just a quest for itself, right? I mean, yeah, that didn't exist back with the thing, so that doesn't make sense. What's... This is just hobgoblins. Oh my god. Naughty dungeon. Wait, that is a Chaos Altar though, right? There's no demon. I'm going there. Again, I'm out of ideas. No, don't accidentally quit. Thank God that had a confirmation menu. Alright, I have no other ideas, so we're going to try that. I don't recall there being a demon on the outside. I also don't think this existed back then. Like, ZMI came into it relatively early, but not like that early. Health back. That's the sheep herder thing. Chaos Altar, Chaos Altar, Chaos Altar, Chaos Altar. Varrock has a Chaos Altar, but no demon. If it's not here, I might look at this thing again and recall any steps, because maybe the demon thing already happened and I'm just like getting caught up on it and it's throwing me off. Examine, pray. Let's just turn that on to make sure I've got something that I need to pray for. Archaeological dig, yeah, that's the ZMI altar stuff. Blah, blah, blah. We'll do that later, but none of that gives me the spell. Okay. Got a Chaos Altar. I'm gonna check Varrock's Chaos Altar, if it's still there. Where else has Chaos Altars? Actually, when we land, I'm gonna check this thing. Merlin's Crystal. King Arthur, set up a blah blah. Told me it was work of more than prey, yep. Then he told me Mordred's fortress is not completely impenetrable, yeah. Combat and return. I need to summon attacks. Blind brain attacks. Yeah, it has to be a Chaos Altar with a Lesser Demon, because none of the other stuff had to do with a Lesser Demon. Looks like there is a Chaos... Well, the altar is there. I think it should be a Chaos Altar. Wait, what's that? Is that a dungeon? Or is that a dungeon? I don't recall that. Oh, unless this is like a Shield of Arrow thing. Church basement's uninvited. Okay, well... Check! Check! Oh my god, we found it. Oh my god, where is the fucking... Is that it? That is it. Where's the fucking demon? Unless the demon's at the end. I'm not gonna have an aneurysm. 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 I am not gonna have an aneurysm. Sorry, a Murloc just came in my room. Oh my god. Do I go to the... And a magic symbol as close to... Okay, so I'm guessing the magic symbol is the thing on the outside then. Alright, now, the number one thing that would piss me off is if I am not already super paranoid about burying bones or eating a quest item. So, luckily, I shouldn't bury this. I will drop it. Drop. A mighty spirit appears. You don't look very mighty. Now, what were those magic words? Oh, no. I think it was Snarthon. I think it's one of these two. I don't think it's that. I remember there being an O in it. Samantha? Maybe if I get that wrong, it summons a demon. Thou hast me in thine control, so that I mayest return from whence I came. I must grant thee a boon. What dost thou wish from me? To speak normal English. I wish to free Merlin. Yeah, the deed is done. Oh my god, I think I did it. Bro, how is a new player meant to figure that out? The only reason I even had a chance was knowing all of the fucking, like, a bunch of different Chaos Altars. Yes, I tripped myself up on the level 70 thing. Because that's like having too much knowledge and it kind of like throws you off. But how is a new player meant to figure that out? Like Varrock. Go speak to King Arthur, he'll reward you. Yeah, fuck you. But seriously, how is a new player meant to figure that out? Like the lady at the lake you get pointed to. And it says that she's at Taverley. The beeswax merchant thing is nearby. So it's fairly reasonable to assume that. Same with the tower. But why Varrock? That's confusing. I have freed Merlin. Good job, well done. I dubbed thee a Knight of the Round Table. You're an honorary knight. Okay, thank you. 5 kudos and 1,000 XP lamp. From the museum. Okay, we're going to go and try and claim that because maybe I can chuck that on. Whatchamacallit? Jack joined Discord, but I am muted. Alright, well, that's Merlin's crystal done. Rune me those. I don't think I'm going to do those. Alright, wait, why did I come here again? Did I just completely brain fart? Why did I come here again? Alright, we need to turn everything back on. Shops, facilities. Oh my god, this quest has ruined my brain. Why did I come back here? The Varrock Museum. Now let's say hello to Jack. Hello, sir.
Hello.
I am... Holy crap, I forgot that that's going to be loud. Sorry. 1 sec. That's loud for me. Alright. How you doing? Whoops, did I accidentally click on that?
Bad.
Okay.
A little bit
looks good.
scared that you've only just finished Merlin's Crystal.
Bruh, the next part is so unclear. Good luck. I was literally, like, I'm still streaming and still recording. I was just ranting about how is a new player meant to figure that last step out. 2 out of 3 steps that you have to do, mate, they're reasonable. Not the one of them's not the clearest in the world, but it's reasonable. The other one, I have no fucking clue how. Like, you might be alright, but I don't know how a new player is meant to figure it out.
Yeah, the fact that a lot of the quests just stopped giving you hints.
Yeah, which this one seems to do.
Well, a lot of the older ones as well, where they just kind of...
Yeah, well,
Like,
this
they
is
have-
one of the oldest.
Yeah, they have like little... Oh, this is what... Not even like, this is what you did last, here's a hint of where you need to go next.
Mm.
And then it just kind of... Like, you've done all the hints, and then it stops.
Yep.
Like,
That's what happened. Alright. A qualified archaeologist, travel, just kudos. Alright, I might mute up again for a bit. I'll probably be doing this for like 50 minutes or so.
no worries.
And I'll
Just
be
came
back.
in to say hi and whenever you feel like talking.
Yeah, no worries. I'll jump back in after I figure out what to do for the next 50 minutes. Maybe a little longer. Boy, good luck on Merlin's Crystal.
Thank you, I guess.
Alright. So my headset back up. But you might want to Earth Essence exams. Okay, thanks. Blah, 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 blah. Kudos is here, right? Let me check. Look for information booth. Find out about Kudos. Is a measure of how much you've assisted the museum. The more information you give us, the dig site finds that you clean. Doesn't it also give you Slayer XP at the start or something? Found a rather interesting island north of Mauritania. We believe that it may be... Okay, does Fossil Island exist in this? I suspect we'll be looking for qualified archaeologists. So we're using kudos as a measure. Who is willing to help the museum so they can be invited on our dig on the new island? Okay. Unfortunately, you haven't earned enough kudos yet, so you aren't qualified to help us dig. If you're interested in getting kudos, okay, yes, yes. Where's my reward? Give reward. Five kudos and a 1000 XP lamp from if you talk to Historian Minas. Okay, that was this guy. No. Who's Historian Minas? Alright. You just look pompous. Alright, you. Hello. Welcome to Varric Museum. How can I help? Maybe useful to your displays. That's grand. We're always glad to have more facts. Now tell me what you know. I helped to free the wizard Merlin by using it. Is that some kind of a spell? Yes. Oh, no. No, it's a sword. King Arthur's sword. One that apparently is magical and can't be seen in my character's hands while talking to knights of the Round Table. What kingdom does he rule? Ananka, one of the kingdoms of Terragard. Where on Gielinor is that? It's not. That's what I've been trying to tell you. I found that King Arthur and his knights are really biding their time here in Gielinor until they are called back to their own world when they are needed. That's amazing. So he's really from another world. Well, this is interesting. I'll make sure to display is put up. Well done. Display number 9, 5th age, year 132. Okay. Oh, and before I forget, we found this old lamp lying around, and since you've done such a sterling job, I'd like you to have it. Oh, random bits and tats, thank you. Oh, bits of tats. Whatever. Mages let me in on the secret of Runecroft. Oh, I might get another one. I can't tell you much, but I do know that the rune essence can be mined from a secret place. Then, using the altars and talismans, I can change it into runes. Alright, I'll get that up on the display. Oh, it got me kudos, but it didn't give me another reward. No! Maybe it needs to be... Wait, it's a level 20. Okay, I need to get this level 20 before I can examine. Okay, it doesn't say... You must choose... Yes, okay, level 20. Okay. We're going to hold on to that for now. Let's go to the bank and maybe try and get my herb lot to level 20 real quick. I don't think I have the supplies for it. Because my... Alright, we'll do the farm run first. I'm guessing you can't bank these still. Whoa. Oh, okay. Some guy called Max. Alright, deposit all of those. Deposit that. Alright, let's grab out... Oh shit, I don't have, whatchamacallit. I have one more seed. Alright, I have a Guam seed, I have a Taraman seed. Can I do Haralander yet? Perfect! Oh, we're gonna grab Haralander. Yeah, alright, mate. Show off your fucking... Alright. Yeah, you're a fucking show-off, isn't it? Max has 200%... Oh, 200 million Constitution XP. Well, good for him. I guess I'm taking those 3. How many? 17 Guams. I don't think I'm gonna have enough. Limpworts I think I can buy from that shop, but not many. Which I can do for the Taramans. And that for the Marintils. Do I have... I've only got one Marintil. Alright, that's fine. Wild blood. No, none of these. Alright, whatever. I've got enough anyway. Let's do the leaves. Let's go do this. Where do we start? Bellador. I don't think I'm going to get to 20 from this. If I can't, maybe I do those deliveries that I was getting those lamps for over at Berthorpe to get to 20. 1,000 XP is going to be big. I'm sorry. I'm just like I'm torn on these because they're 6th stage. I'm just trying to think whether I want to do them or not. Or if I find other stuff to do first. Surely I can't do Holy Grail right now, right? Oh, you just need 30 attack. Short to medium. Yeah, short to medium. What did it say Merlin's crystal was? Medium. Okay, yeah, we ain't risking that. Maybe that's a tomorrow thing. Alright. 1, 2, 3. Grab one of them just in case. Pick the Taramin. I am going to need to figure out a way for more herb income. Is Kingdom of Miscellaneous? Yeah, Kingdom of Miscellaneous should be a thing in this, right? Should be. I'm pretty sure that predates the other stuff. Okay, now we go. Use. Home. Cathaby. Maybe we do the Restless Ghost, because that's a prerequisite for Priest in Peril, right? No. Have they changed that? Wait, was it in the first place? Or is that for the Nature Spirit? Priest in Peril. The same quest. I have done this a dozen times. Maybe that's one I can do relatively quickly. So I have between 30 minutes, oh my god, 30 minutes and an hour and a half. Wait, I thought I withdrew a plant cure. Dick, let's just make this is treated with super compost. It already has, yes, cool. Alright, go to Artie. I know I'm forgetting a really obvious herb patch too. I think. Oh no, I'm thinking of Farming Guild, which isn't in this. Or at least not in the same way. Or maybe it's not in this at all, unless this is the Farming Guild. Because I saw these guys talked about the Farming Guild, I think. Give me them Taramins. Bloodwood, the money tree. God, that'd be nice. Right, let's do the Guam, because I can easily get the secondaries for that. I mean, I've already got them. Alright. Cool. Now, let's... Oh, there's a bank just here. Let's see how much XP we can get. Actually, nope. Take compost. We always replenish. Alright. Let's see what XP we can get. Or maybe we teleport to Tavali because we need to buy more Limpworts. I'm only going to have 10. Alright. Yeah, that can't go in the bank. Cool. Tavali. I said earlier I don't like the lodestone network, like, clarity. I think Tavali, I don't know if Tavali's the exception because it's potion, right? And I'm thinking of potions right now and it has a potion symbol. But to people, and Cathaby's fishing, right? But do people associate all these, like Port Sarim? Yeah, I guess that makes sense. But how do you, like, what, do you have to just associate all of these? Like, it'd be nice to have just have a quick teleport by default. I don't know what that is. Oh, you can acquire quick teleport charge by using Beeswax in the Rune Crafting Guild. I have no idea where a Rune Crafting Guild is. Alright, which one of you was Herblot Shooter, right? Wait, Pickpocket. Can you give me herbs? Who are you? Are you a Pompous Merchant? Is this what a Pompous Merchant is? He looks like a Pompous Merchant. Why is it not doing it automatically? Ooh, Jack also... Oh, yeah, that was a Pompous Merchant. Jack also said something about druids you can pickpocket. I haven't seen any. And I looked it up in here, and it said something about El Towadabla. I remember they're slightly higher than the other ones, the Master Farmers. Pickpocket, Crux, Garden of Carid. Oops, I did not mean to click then. Garden of Carid, so they're over there. Druids. Do they have seeds or do they have herb stuff, though? I think he said that he examined it and it said something about, they look like they have seeds or something. Grabbing these as well, because apparently these were for... Yeah, blah, blah, blah. Apparently these were, I think, for magic potions when I looked. Or defense. Oh, bear first for defense potions. Okay, and that's for Marintills. Strength is Taramins and Limpworts, yes. Taramin and any colored bead. Oh, okay, cool. That gives me plenty of XP then. Okay, that's sick. All right. All right, we're going to go buy more stuff. We're going to just buy this fucker out. That means I got enough stuff that I can actually do my Taramins. All right, that's awesome. All right. Max. Oh, okay, so I can't just do it like that. All right, buy all the fur, buy white berries for later. I'm going to buy the red berries because apparently there might be stuff that I don't even realize. And we'll buy all the water packs because fuck it. Open all. All right, this is giving me more than I expected, so let's just try and make this and see how far we get. Break to lumber sale. Oh, that was that person I said the other day. Looks like a Fremenic. All right. I guess we're doing 13 because I mean, grab all of them first. All of them. Oh, I don't like that. Let me do it manually. It should be good timing. The dog is still asleep. And she might wake up next half an hour to an hour and a half, which is when I can then take her for a walk. So this might end up timing out nicely with everything. Wait, why did they... Oh, because I did 13. Let's just grab everything. I won't be able to clean everything, but... Let's see what we can clean. Only one Marintil, but that might actually be handy because that one Marintil... Alright, so I can't do the rest because the next should be Harrowlander. Okay, but that one Marintil might end up being a anti-poison that I need for something. I don't know what, but we shall see. Yes, Unicorn does give us an anti-poison. Nice. I might need that for something. No idea what. Got 13 of them, 13 of them. These are the easiest ones to do. No, oh, I don't like that. I've near mix 25 XP each. Okay. Hopefully this gets us to 20. If we're close, we'll go do the crate things. What was that? 5. The crate things in Burthorpe for some lamps. Did one crate get me 3 lamps, I think? Alright. Oh, whoops, I didn't finish them. I'm an idiot. Replace order that. Alright, cool. Harriman. Alright, I'm going to do the magic potion because I'm not really going to use strength for a while. And I can use them for super strengths, I guess. Where are my Taramins. Klingwam, Grimy Taram, Kling Taramin. Where's my grimy Marantil there? Alright, cool. Taramin. These should also be worth a bit more XP. Ooh, 93 fletching on the old school gem. I'm just chopping redwoods and let's grab that. Oh fuck it, we'll do these anyway. Making redwoods or chopping redwoods and then just fletching them into arrow shafts. 40 XP each. Awesome. I think we're gonna get like level 18 or yeah, 18 probably. Maybe 19 from all this stuff. Oh, you can just click mix on it now. Interesting. I don't know if I like that all that much. That just might be me being like, I don't know, the old school equivalent of boomer. Like okay boomer, but like okay old schooler, whatever. I don't know, I'm yapping. Alright, cool. Now we do that. We go that. Alright, you know how I said the dog will be asleep for a little while longer? My mum just woke her up. Lovely. Oh, does this just use all the bead colors? Does it just not care? I mean, like, as in like the automated thing. It said any bead color, but did it just not care when making it? 17. Okay. 17. All right, we'll go to at least one crate and just see if it was 3 things that it gave. I think it was 3 100 XP lamps. Not great XP, but it's something. We just need to get to level 20 just for this. And I don't know what to farm for. Wait, does he sell a herb seed? No, just other low-level seeds. Okay. Fine. Oh, that is a concentrated section for cows. Oh, it's probably because this is the crafting tutor, probably. With leather or something. Alright, so we go over here. And what, do we just talk to Dunuth again?
Welcome back.
Welcome back, friend. You need any more help? Alright, let's just spacebar through this. You need any more help? Oh, can you give me more than one? No, fuck. Alright, that's fine.
Sarah Doman.
Jack messaged me. What did Jack say? Would have been much. Okay. So the Chaos Altar step isn't that hard, especially for when it was released, since there would have been much less worlds. Several of the earlier quests take you to Varrock Chaos Altar. That's fair. Yeah, I think I overthought it because the quest says you may aggro a level 70 demon. I might as well just unmute right now, because this is just... Hello again.
Welcome back.
There you go. Yeah, so for me, it was like more a case of trying to think of where all the Chaos Altars were, because I haven't done something at, like, whatchamacallit for a long time. Oops, where am I going?
Yeah, I think I don't know if don't remember if the new Demon Slayer does take you to it. But
it
there
might.
was several references so far to that place in the quests I've been doing.
Yeah, probably the other quests, not this one though, which I just found weird. Because like I had a similar mentality to you. I was thinking like all right, this place wasn't released yet, this place wasn't released yet, so on and so forth. But I kept on thinking about the fact it said you may aggro a level 70 demon, which made me just think lesser demons. So I was trying to rack my brain, trying to think of where lesser demons were, where Chaos Altar was. And it was breaking my brain. But I think that's... I think that is a chance thing that can happen at the end and not during that part, so it threw me off a lot.
Yeah. Did you try the ZMI altar?
I did try the ZMI. I tried ZMI. Yeah. Oh, the other condition that I also thought was like it can't be something that's behind any quests or like a skill check. Like I was thinking the one in the Yanil dungeon where Sala and the Twisted is, but it can't be that because there's an agility check and it's not a requirement for the quest.
Thanks. We still need not a lot. We still need more.
So there was that. I also remember ZMI didn't exist at the start of the game, so I didn't think it was. I did check it anyway when I was running out of ideas. I also checked the Chaos Temple north of Valador. I checked fucking all sorts, dude. I went to like Temple of Icop and everything. Yeah, it took me ages.
My first thought was the temple to the east of Valador.
Berthorpe.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I meant by the one north of Valador. That's the one that I did check. But
still exists.
It does still exist. It's a little different, but it is still a Chaos Altar there.
Oh. Did
So
it have
that
a check option on it?
No. The Varrock one was the only one that I found that had a check option. Like I was going full on like paranoia mode. I'm like, is there a hidden one somewhere? Is it? Because I think there is a quest where you expose someone for being hidden, like Zamorak monk or some shit. I don't remember which quest it is, but I think there is something like that. And I'm like, is that this quest? Is there a hidden altar I've got to find? Like, I was racking my brain, especially because of the stupid level 70 demon thing. I went to Karamja dungeon, even though I didn't think it was there. I searched Tavali dungeon twice, even though I didn't think it was there. Like, I even went to the Dark Wizard's Tower below the Tavali dungeon.
And I have very little leg to stand on. I got defeated by Waterfall Quest.
Yeah, that was partially like me knowing like pre-knowledge. Like I was like, I was pretty sure I had to go to both sections of that like tunnel thing, not just one.
I was also kind of got by my pre-knowledge. Because I remember
I'm here to stop
quest, or one of those in that quest line has you go back to Galadriel's tomb. And I was
right.
I don't remember having to go up to the other place, but I do remember having to grab.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I just
like,
ran in, grabbed it, and then ran out.
Yeah, and you assumed that the other section was for the other quest.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. That is fair. But one cool thing is after that quest, we get a antique lamp from Varrock Museum. With like 1000 XP for something over level 20. So right now I'm just getting my herb lore to 20 so I can chuck it in that. Have you actually found any monsters that consistently drop herbs? Because like I tried Chaos Druids and they don't.
Men.
Do they? I haven't killed any. They do in old school a fair bit, but I haven't tried in this.
I also haven't been killing many things.
Yeah, neither. Oh well. Anyway, I'm gonna go back to muted. And glad you found it a lot quicker than me because it took me forever.
Now I'm trying to do a Holy Grail.
Yeah, I saw that we unlocked that next. That's tempting. I wonder if it still gives that massive XP. Because I'm not looking at...
16K.
Oh, okay.
16. Oh, you're not looking at...
No, I'm not looking at the reward show thing. But it's an in-game thing, so that's fine. But, yeah. Because I thought it had a level requirement as well.
Thanks.
But I guess maybe I'm misremembering that.
We still need
No, I think it does.
Yeah, I thought it had like a defense requirement.
30 attack.
Oh, unless I'm thinking of like King's Ransom.
No, it has 30 attack.
Yeah, but I thought it had a defense requirement. I'm probably thinking of King's Ransom.
Yeah, that's the one after, isn't it?
Yep.
For what's the name? Chivalry.
Yeah. Oh my god, I'm 14 XP off level 20. God damn it.
Do you want a Guam?
That's fine. I found a little shitty method. After you do... Have you done Death Plateau yet?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, he asks you to take like the crates. Like a crate up to the archers.
Welcome back.
Yeah, that gives you 380... I don't know if it's 180 like static or if it's level based, but it gives you 3 lamps that you can put in each time you do it. So I did all of my whatchamacallits, my herbs and everything in my farm run, and then now I'm just running back and forth for the last 3 levels doing those crates for the lamps. It's actually not that bad.
Crates. I couldn't find the crates. I looked around. I was like, oh, yeah.
I'm here to
Oh no, you just talk to the commander. Yeah. I wouldn't recommend this about most... Whoa, actually. I'm almost tempted... No, I just realized I'm almost tempted to do this for agility instead of actually doing the agility there.
Yeah, that's like 3 laps of the course.
Something like that.
Yeah, I've got 18 agility. I think I did 3 levels. I did the gnome course and that course. I'm like, yeah, this sucks so much worse than old school. I didn't think it was possible.
I was doing it last night and I had a rant about this at the start of the stream where it's like, I looked at it pretty closely last night and all of the other skills have like a level 10 or even lower next tier of like thing you can train. Same at level 20 or sometimes level 15. Agility doesn't. It's just gnome ball at level 2. Then at level 20, you get the second tier of agility arena, but that thing's dog shit anyway. But you don't get anything at tier 10. Like there's no tier 10 course.
We're probably missing something.
Maybe, or it's just been neglected over time. Because like, don't forget old school specifically updated to have the rooftop courses, so that added those gaps in, whereas maybe this game's still stuck at those gaps. Because like, I don't think it'd be a fair assumption to say that, you know, will you just do like, you know, quest agility, because that doesn't make sense for a new player,
we still need,
right?
Not a lot. We still need more.
Like when you look at the agility guide, you should think that that's what a new player would look at, right?
And the guides in this are abysmal. But all the skills have links to the wiki on them, and
that is true. That is true. Alright, there's my herb lore. Then we can use the antique lamp.
you can do barbarian fishing at 15.
Yeah, I did think about that, but I'm probably just going to do it all off stream and just get it done.
Look for butterfly catching.
Where's that?
I don't know. It's got at level 25
Would
you
that-
get increased catch chance of butterflies.
Probably hunter. Yeah, I see a moth here. Yeah, butterfly, ruby harvest butterfly. So I think they have that type of stuff in just not the agility thing in old school. Like you catch butterflies in old school. What was I doing with level? Oh yeah, I just wanted level 20 for the lamp. Okay. Yeah.
And Ancoria. Begin island travel.
I have no idea what you just said.
Just looking through the milestones.
Oh,
It's level 30.
right.
It's also... I'll keep looking and see if I can find any better agility methods.
I'm going to just do a lap really quickly to see how much XP you get for it. And then I'll do a crate to see if it's just a flat 180 or if it scales with level. Alright, so we got... What's this? 5... Plus 6 is 11. Plus 5 is 16. Plus, I think that was 6, so that's 22. Plus 6. Unless they're like 5 points something. 28. $28, 33, and then jump down at the end. All right, 33 plus 46 is what, 79? 79 for a lap. All right, now let me see.
Welcome back, friend.
$79 for a lap. All right, 180 times 3 would be what, 440? So if you get 440 XP for doing one of these, 440 divided by 7.
What was the time?
I don't know, but I just want to check the XP first.
Yeah.
I will say this is more enjoyable than just doing the laps. The other thing is I don't know if there's a shorter way to get there or if you just do the whole pathway thing that you do for Death Plateau in the dwarf's house or whatever.
Oh. Like, so you have to do that?
That's what I'm thinking. And then when you get to the very end of that, that's where the archers just are. Like up the top. You just have to run to that cave and go through the cave. And then you hand it in. And then you just load stone back. Oh, these actually, the obstacles here give XP as well. So I'm not even factoring those in, like agility XP. Like I just got 12 for the rope swing. 12 for the stepping stones. 3 for the rocks.
So where on the map do you come out?
Where you fight that troll.
Is that's just above the Death Plateau thing?
Yes. I'm almost here, so let me just check. Yeah, so just like in old school, where the rocks would be. That you climb over.
Yeah.
Good day.
Right, hand that in.
It looks like...
Not a lot. I think there are.
If you look at the map, you looking to the left of that,
Yeah.
do a straight run.
That goes past the Sherpa house, doesn't it? Which takes quite a bit longer.
There's the Sherpa House one, but you could teleport to the Fremnik Waystone. And it looks like there's just a way up the mountain.
Give me 1 sec. It looks like you... Alright, so it's a flat 180 XP. The Fremnik Lodestone.
So
Oh no, that looks way further.
you don't have to go through the house at all to do all those things. It's just a straight run.
Yeah... I hop that and then go that way. Oh yeah, I see where you're talking. Let me just... Well, I'm here already. Let me see if I can even go that way.
Yeah.
It looks dangerous. I'll need a good reason before I venture that way. No, so I can't even climb this thing.
But even if you can't climb it, it looks like you can go down towards the Sherpa's house and then back up.
Yeah, let me have a look. I mean, at that point, I think he's better off running from whatchamacallit.
follow Death Plateau thing is that can you take that shortcut just above the Death Plateau?
Wait, hang on. We might have a problem with this. Oh, there's rocks in the way. You can't go. You can't go this way to the Sherpa's house.
Well, that defeats it.
Oh well. I mean, 3 more levels to level 30, and that's Agility Pyramid. I don't know if that's going to be better XP or not, but it's not this fucking place.
Mini games.
Yeah. Horses, Agility Pyramid, Penguin Agility course if Cold War is done as well. And you said Anachronia before, right?
Yeah.
Beginner Island Travel. Yeah. The Island Agility locations. No fucking idea. But the Penguin
Welcome
course
back,
wouldn't be
friend.
bad. Oh, okay. This thing that I'm doing is only looks like it's you can only do it 5 times.
Sarah Doman?
I don't know if it's daily or a week, but you can only do it 5 supply runs. Oh, where's that penguin?
Penguin course you have to do Cold War, I think.
Yeah. What?
Barbarian Assault gives
No.
by making agility, but we can't even do it, so there's no...
Oh no, what a shame. Alphabetical show lock. What the hell? Cold War to take. Cold War. Oh, I need a whole bunch of stats. Never mind. 10 hunter, 30 crafting, 34 construction. Alright. Oh, and it's a long quest too. Alright. It's fine, we can do that later. Alright. Alright, fuck it. I don't know what to do for now, so I might end the stream. That's like 3 hours anyway. I'll continue on my agility, my farm runs and stuff like that, and I'll figure out what to do tomorrow. Yeah. Alright. Well, have fun, everyone. Bye. You want to say bye, Jack?
Oh, yeah.